We're not doing our job if they go through and can't capture the images as it happens, as things are breaking or as things are going on. What I want you guys to be able to do before we leave is to do everything that you guys are going to see on the screen today. I want you to understand how to photograph everything that you're going to see. If you can't, then I haven't done my job. Okay? Before I was a teacher, oh, he's going to be a senior this year.
Is it yours?
No, thank God. He's the reason I stopped coaching baseball. Because that was him in kindergarten, and he still has that little evil grin and look, and yeah, that's just him. Some of these you're going to hear the stories about later on, and I want you guys to make sure that you understand how and why we do what we do, why each one of these photos are important to us, and where they come from, and the backstory for a lot of them. Who's he? Brad Paisley. Why would he matter to a very small school in the middle of nowhere, literally in a cornfield? That's us. Any idea?
Did he come from one?
He did not. He's from East Tennessee, actually. The very first night of his world tour, of his, I don't remember the name of it now, world tour, was in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And they called us because his staff photographer got sick. Couldn't make the flight, actually, the day before. And wanted to know if I had a couple of students that could come and shoot their opening night for them. So,
called your school?
Yes, they called me.
I get those calls occasionally, too.
Yeah, right.
Trust me, you're going to hear about a whole bunch of phone calls before it's over with today. They wanted to know if I had a couple of students that could come and shoot for them because they knew me. And I said, sure, be glad to. So they ended up with, I think, one album cover, 2 or 3 t-shirts, and all kinds of Brad Paisley gear before it was over with. And what they learned, you guys are going to learn in the next hour. And that's how they did it. It's learning how to use your camera and do the many things inside of your camera to be able to manipulate it in a way that you want it to. Now, everything you guys just saw came from 7th graders to seniors. Everything was from 7th graders to seniors. My students shot it all. Now, how do they do that? It's pretty simple. They know how to use this. And I assume that some of you are now looking at that going, oh crap, I don't have a clue. And some of you may actually know what some of these are, right? In the next hour or so, we're going to go through some of that. Let me get this stuff out real quick. As I'm thinking about it, how many of you guys recognize the shirt? Do any of you guys know what the shirt means?
Not even ready to
6 plus 4 plus 3 equals 2. Any idea? Nobody? I have no baseball fans in the room. It's going to be a day. Cool.
Miles, this is on you.
All right, then let's learn real quick.
6-4-3 double play.
Good call, good job. Yes, it's a 6-4-3 double play. So in baseball, each position has a number.
I was thinking photography. I'm like, I don't know.
Ground ball to the shortstop, throws to the second baseman, throws to the first baseman. That's 2 outs, right? We understand that baseball has its own language.
Okay.
Photography has its own language too. And today I'm going to teach you that language, and I'm going to teach you how to manipulate that language. Okay? But I want to start with some things that you understand. I want you to understand their language, but let's start with something that you know. We all have one of these, right? You guys all know how to use one of these? If I'm trying to take a photo of Miles and it focuses on that back door, what happens? What is Miles?
Blurry.
He's blurry. He's out of focus, right? If I'm trying to take a photo of Miles and I'm doing this, what happens?
Blurry.
He's blurry. Why? I have camera shake, right? The third reason for a blurry photo is the shutter speed is too slow. It's not fast enough to freeze the image. We're going to get into what that means here in a little bit, but remember, those are the only 3 reasons for blurry photos. It's out of focus, I have camera shake, or my shutter speed is too slow. That's it, okay? This is Mackenzie. Mackenzie's going to work with us for the next couple of days. Of these 3 images of Mackenzie, which one are you most likely to use? The one all the way over there? Why? It's because she looks like a turtle, right? No?
It's all in focus.
She's all in focus? What else?
Shows emotion, maybe? Or
Okay.
like she's
She's frozen.
Yeah.
She's about to drop a baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if I told you that all 3 of these photos are technically correct? The color, the lighting, the focus, everything's correct on them. The only difference is how they're shot. The one closest to me was shot in portrait mode. So it was taken with a Canon, I think it was a Canon 80D or Canon 90D. They were taken in portrait mode. The picture of the little girl that's on your camera, that one. The one in the middle was taken in sports, a running man. And then the one all the way over was taken in manual. In manual. It's learning how to control those settings so that we control the output from our camera. I grew up an old school baseball fan. You can probably tell from the t-shirt, baseball fan. Like Ozzie Smith was my favorite player growing up. You guys may not even know who he is. We'll call him Mason Wynn. How's that? Does that help you guys? Okay. Oh, no baseball fans. Okay. I want to know what Ozzie Smith batted in. Okay.
Yeah. You gotta go back to
Royals fans
George
through here?
Brett. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right. I was a
Wrong
George
side
Brett.
of the
I was a
state.
George Brett fan growing
There you
up.
go.
How's that?
Yep, I know,
If I wanted to know what Brett batted in '85, what do I type into Google?
What did Brett bat in '85?
What did George Brett bat in 1985? And what does Google give me?
Exactly.
Exact stats.
Yeah, it'll pop it up in a box, right? I don't even have to go anywhere. Now, let's talk about how we use our camera for a minute, okay? Let's start using our camera the way we use Google. You guys, if you've ever taught elementary, you teach elementary kids how to use sight words, right? If you want to know what George Brett batted in 1985, you just type it into Google, it'll tell you. Be as specific as possible. With our camera, we want to be as specific as possible. The problem is that's not how everybody uses their camera.
When using Google is how to run it.
So,
I
so
use Google a lot.
a lot of ti- yeah, a
Why
lot of
is my
times-
camera doing this.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
think about using it this way. If we go to Google and we type in baseball, how long does it take us to get to what George Brett batted in 1985?
A while, yeah.
A while. Let's just type in sports. How long does it take?
Longer.
Long time.
Longer? Royals are still blue, right?
Yeah.
If I just type in blue, how long does it take me to get to what George Brett batted in 1985?
Long time.
The problem is that's how most people use their cameras. They put it in sports mode and go, well, it should know what it's doing. No. I want you to learn to control the output of your camera by using the input that we're going to use. Okay? There are three things that we can control. The first thing we control is our f-stop or our aperture. The second thing we can control is our shutter speed. The third thing we can control is our ISO. Now, I'll tell you guys, you want to take notes, you're more than welcome to. If you want to take your phone and screenshot, you're more than welcome to. Everything you're going to see on the screen, either I created, my students created, or we stole from somebody. Okay? I'm a high school teacher. What do you
That's
expect?
right. That's how. Yeah.
See? Welcome to it.
And I'm recording him.
Even better.
Perfect.
So your f-stop has to do with the amount of light that you let into your camera through your lens. Your shutter speed has to do with how fast or how slow your camera fires. And your ISO has to do with how much, it's a good word for that. I guess sensitivity would be the word that you guys would understand. How sensitive your camera is to light. And I'll walk you through each one of these and how they work. Okay? The first one is our ISO. Your ISO really does have to do with how much light you're allowing through your camera. Now, most ISOs will go down to 2.8, 2, 1.4, but it always tells you on your lens what your lowest f-stop is. And then you normally can go up to 22, 32, 64, depending on what the highest f-stop is.
So f-stop is the same as the ISO?
No, f-stop and aperture are the same thing. ISO is completely different.
Okay.
So you need to first know what is the lowest f-stop that I can shoot on my camera. And normally your lens will tell you that. Okay? Now, here's the big thing. It has to do with how much light is coming into your camera. It also has to do with what your image looks like. Now, I travel a lot. I'm here today and tomorrow. I'll be in Michigan in a couple of weeks. I'll be in New York in a couple of weeks, and wherever else my wife sends me so that, I can pay the bills. That's the way it works.
All doing the
But-
same thing?
Pretty much, yeah. It's different depending on what they want me to teach, but it's pretty similar for the most part. For you guys, what I want you to understand is this is how f-stop works. At f1.8, that lens is completely wide open, right? You're allowing as much light in as you possibly can. At f16, you're only allowing in a very small amount of light, right? You guys see how that works with these two lenses? Works the same with every lens that you guys have. Just this is one of the old styles that you would have to turn it and change it, and now it's electronic. That's the only difference in the lenses. This one's what's called manual, yours is what's called electronic. Now, when I travel, people ask me all the time, what do you do? I teach business, I teach journalism, I teach computers, no. I coach bass, no. I just say I teach photography. It makes life so much easier. I teach photography. And the first question I always get is how to take that photograph. That she's in focus, the background's out of focus, and the foreground is out of focus. And it's so simple. It's just a low f-stop. That's it. This was one of Mackenzie's senior photos. We shot it with an exceptionally low f-stop. I want to say it's at 2.8.
So you're on manual,
Mm-hmm.
and your f-stop is
2.8.
2.8.
Mm-hmm. Notice in this, and I love your screen because you can do it here. What does she have in her eyes? Can you guys tell?
A reflection.
She's got contacts.
Oh.
The image is so sharp
yeah, you can
that
see
you can
the-
see the line of the
okay.
contact there, right? However, in her left eye, or in her right eye, the contact is soft. With your f-stop, you're able to set your depth of field. Your depth of field has to do with what is in focus in the photo, okay? With this, my depth of field was so small, her left eye is in focus and her right eye is soft. That's how small my depth of field was when I shot this photograph, okay? It's as low as I can get an f-stop, 2.8 on that particular lens. So if I turn like this, and this is in focus and this is out of focus, that is going to be completely out of focus, right? That's how you take the photo. It's a very low f-stop. Now, if we go to the other side, oh, sorry. This may help you just a little bit. Look the brick wall beside Caskie's head. Notice how there's one strip that's in focus. Everything else, both ways, is out of focus. It's a very small, very thin depth of field.
Depth of field and f-stop are the same.
Yes, your f-stop sets your depth of field. It has to do with what will be in focus in the photograph. Okay? We can go to the other side of that too. This is Natalie. What's behind Natalie's head?
St. Louis Arch.
And how tall is it?
Enough.
I got Smarties. How tall is it, guys? How tall is the arch? You guys all live in Missouri.
Oh, we gotta Google it. Hold on.
Oh no, see, you can't do that because it's a small enough group. I can look at you and go, no, look, I'm
You're
cheating.
like, what? I'll distract you. Look.
Okay.
It's 530 feet tall. Okay, Natalie's about 5 feet tall. So what's the differential between the top of her head and the arch?
A lot.
No math majors in the room.
525.
Good call. Good job. 525 feet. However, look at the arch. What do you see going up the arch?
It's in focus.
You can see every pane going all the way up, right? And then at the very top of the arch, what are those little black dots?
Those windows.
There you go. Good job. Windows. Natalie is in focus. The windows of the arch are in focus that are 525 feet above her head. If we flew a plane over at 25,000 feet, the plane would be in focus. This is what's called infinitesimal focus. It's everything is in focus. This is an exceptionally high f-stop. Okay? An f32, an f60, something like that. It depends on whatever the highest f-stop your lens will allow you to shoot.
Because you want everything.
I want everything in focus. Think about if I'm shooting you guys don't have football, do you? Yes. Think about if I'm shooting a football team photo and I've got 60 guys.
I'm sorry, we do have football. We co-op with another
oh,
football.
cool,
So,
good. We'll get into
sorry.
We are never required to take the picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right. We'll get into it anyway. If I have 60 guys in pads, 10 coaches, so you're looking at 70 now, and I want all of them in one photograph. Most of the time, the only place to take that photograph is where? In the bleachers. So you put me in a bucket, lift me up. I want all of them in focus, so I'm going to use a really high f-stop so that everybody's in focus. So my depth of field is very, very wide, right? You understand how those two work now? Good. The other thing that we do differently, and the reason that I get hired to do this everywhere I go, is because of this photograph. Anybody can teach you what an f-stop is. What we do is we go one step further. We teach journalistic photography. I teach storytelling with my photography. This is one of my former students. Now, one of the things that you're going to learn about Richland is that we are a very small, very poor school. Okay? This was her kindergarten portrait. And this was the first time she'd ever had her portrait taken. There was no, get her in a bathtub with duckies or get her in a nice little dress when she was 2. No, this is it. This is the first time she's ever had her portrait taken. And what do we do with kindergarten portraits? Probably the same thing you guys do. What do you use in your book for your kindergarten portrait?
They're mugshots.
It's a mugshot. It goes right across here, and that's it, right? I wanted something different. I wanted to be able to tell this story for her. So we shot it in a way that we have the photographer, we have his gear, we have what room that it was shot in. If you blow the photo up in the back, you can see what the weather's doing out of the window. Oh, and by the way, that Olivia was so small whenever her kindergarten portrait was taken, she had to stand on a box to get her portrait taken. Now, all of you had either a kindergarten or a first grade portrait taken of you, right? You may not remember it, you may not know what you wore, you might not even know what it looks like. But now Olivia can go back and look at this photograph and go, yeah, that's right, I was in Miss Riker's room. I wore that little, and my shoes were... We're telling stories with our photographs. That's what I want you guys to learn to do the next 2 days. Not just settings, not just building, but I want you to learn how to tell stories with your photographs. The other thing I want you guys to start learning to do is how to break down a photograph. To see a photograph and begin to realize how it was taken. Okay? This is Tanner. Tanner was a freshman in this photograph. I can tell you that by the hat. I can tell you that we're at Kelly, because there's only one place that we play every year that has a purple strip around the back with the yellow tubing. So this is the first varsity baseball game of the year. And oh, by the way, Tanner's a freshman. What does that tell you about him?
That's pretty good.
He's pretty good. Or,
You guys are that small. You guys are that small.
we suck. And I was the baseball coach, I can say that. It was a little both. He was the best pitcher we had, but we were horrible. That's how it works, okay? But for you guys, I want you to learn to look at a photograph and immediately tell, is this a high f-stop or a low f-stop?
Low.
How do you know?
Because of the blur.
Okay? What do you mean the blur?
The blur around him.
Okay, so,
He's the only thing in focus.
right, so you look immediately at Tanner, right? That's where your eye goes. That's where Liza wants your eye to go. The back wall's included. It's important. But who else is in the photograph? Your eye immediately goes to Tanner, but who else is in the
Yeah,
photograph?
like what is all
A
that
batter.
around it?
That's the batter's arm,
Oh.
that's the umpire, and that's the catcher.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
So
it's
now where are
not the fence. I couldn't
No.
figure out what it was.
we? Where are we now?
You're behind.
Right behind
the plate.
batter's box.
You're behind home plate, shooting through that little hole between the batter and the umpire. Tanner is pitching at you because we always want the action coming at us because we want faces. Faces sell. We always want the action coming at us. We're in the middle of a game. This isn't practice. This isn't warm up. This isn't, hey, go throw your uniform on so I can go get some photos of you. No, we're in the middle of a ball game here. And Eliza freezes the action. That's what I want you guys to learn to do. High or low f-stop? How do you know?
Everything's in focus. Yeah.
Good catch. This was our thematic photo a couple of years ago. Can you guys guess what the theme was? It's been more than a couple of years now. It's been like 8 years or so. Can you guess the theme?
Like a beginning and an end, like a.
Sort of. We did a musical book this year. The girl that was my editor that year, she was a double major of music and journalism at Mizzou, graduated, never paid a dime of college. Scholarship paid for all of it. So her senior year, she wanted to do a musical book. I said, fine, if that's what you want to do, go for it. The theme that year, don't blink. Kindergarten graduation to high school graduation, that fast. You guys that are students, are you freshmen?
Got a senior.
Rising senior.
and a
Senior?
Sophomore.
Okay,
Big
sophomore,
yeah.
it's going to take forever. I'm sorry. This is how it is. Okay, sophomore year to me is your hardest year. Junior year speeds up a little bit. Okay, senior, it'll be Christmas next week, and you smile and go, yeah, but you know what? You're going to think about it at Christmas break and go, you know, Carter was right, man. Christmas was quick. That's the way senior year goes. So it's learning how to tell those stories, to be able to take that moment, pause time, and say, okay, let me tell you this story. These two, They're cousins. One's going into school, one's coming out of school. The one that's coming out of school now has graduated college. He's had his first job and a second job and blah, blah, blah. The little one there would be in my class this coming year if I were to stay at Richland. She'd be in 8th grade. Time goes that fast, guys. We have the ability to stop it and stop it right if we learn how to do it. It's a very high f-stop. Notice that you can see the lockers all the way down. You can see those handles all the way down the lockers, right? How about this one? Is it a high f-stop or low f-stop?
Why?
It's too high. Why do I say it's too high?
Because you don't want to see those people that are back there. You just want the huddle part.
So I want Marcus, Bailey, Rihanna, Paige, Preston. I don't want Miss Depew, Miss Monroe, Miss Rhodes, or that back wall, right? I want to compress that depth of field down so that I have that subject that I want, but then this can be soft in the background. You've got to start paying attention when you're out in the field.
But can you do that as tall as
Absolutely.
like the hand?
Absolutely. What I want you to learn how to do is when you're out in the field, start thinking, okay, what am I looking for? What image do I want to tell a story with? Okay? Do I need a 6-foot depth of field, an 8-foot depth of field, 100-foot depth of field? And then that should help set your f-stop.
So when you're there in the moment taking that shot, is it quick to change this F
Absolutely.
thing? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You're going to get to the point if you shoot enough that you can do it without even looking at it.
Okay.
Like I can change my camera now without even looking at it. If you have one of the higher end cameras, you can just hit a button and it'll automatically change for you because you have it set as a preset. So it's just learning how to use the particular gear that you have in front of you.
A Canon R8. Everybody has Canons.
Perfect.
Every,
Other than
and
these little Sonys.
except for me. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We'll teach you. What about this one? First, what is this?
It's a play.
What play? Oh, come on, you guys know. Somebody knows.
Beauty and the Beast?
Yep, good call. How did you know that?
Because our school didn't have that long ago too.
Cool. So that's Belle, right? This is Gaston, and that's the rest of the cast. But look at the background. Background starts in focus of the houses that she's walking through, right? And then it fades out as it goes. This is a mid-range f-stop. This is a 6.3, 7.1, somewhere in there. Because I wanted the cast in focus. I wanted it big enough to get all the cast in focus, but I want that background to kind of soften as we go. All right? Oh, and by the way, this was shot in 1998. How many of you guys were not alive in 1998? Yeah, see. Good photography stands the test of time. It works the same yesterday as it did today, as it does tomorrow. Learn these rules that we're going to talk about, and you can use them the rest of your life. That's what my kids do. Now, we have a rule at Richland. Everybody has to be in the book at least 3 times. Okay? Everybody. That's students, that's cooks, that's the dogs, that's everybody. Every now and then I have a student that doesn't participate in a club. They don't participate in, I don't know, what you might call class activities, homecoming, all that kind of stuff. They're not in a sport. They just come to school, do their work, and go home. How weird is that? Way it works, though. So I have a cool little program called Tyler Sis that I can look up their schedule. And we're a small enough school, I know how you're probably going to go from your second hour to your third hour. So I give a kid a camera. I say, hey, I need, in this case, Caitlin Blankenship. We need art of her for the book. He drops his f-stop as low as he can get, and what happens to everybody else that's in that hallway? They disappear. It's just her. Now, this may not be something that you guys cover very often, what we call our passing time. But think about it for a minute. Once you get out of high school, how often do you wear a backpack? Unless you're me and you carry all your gear in. How often do you carry textbooks? It doesn't happen very often, right? Those 10 to 15 second moments that you have a conversation with a kid, you know, one of your friends at the lockers, no, it's done. Guys, we need to document even these kind of moments because they don't come back. I can't go back and see the conversations that I had with Chris Hood or Sean Geatley or whatever at my locker when I was in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. We need to document those moments because they disappear quickly. This is my classroom. Yeah, that's me a couple years ago. I had a magazine that wanted to do a feature about me and my editor and how we were doing some editing work. Is it a high f-stop or a low f-stop? How do you know?
Everything's in focus.
Okay, so the whole idea was for them to see me and Deb, but also to see my classroom, all the photos that are on my ceiling, the Christmas lights that go through the room, the Hall of Fame that goes across each one of the walls. It's telling that story. If you walk into my classroom, I promise you it's different than any other classroom you've ever been in. It looks different, it feels different. You feel like you're in a different world outside of the school because that's what I want. But it's very easy to capture. It's just a high f-stop, right? High f-stop, everything's in focus. You're good to go. How about this one?
Medium, low,
Medium to low. Right. How do you know?
because it's more in focus on the left and then blurs as it goes back.
Right. Remember that photo earlier that had the lockers and every one of the lockers were in focus? Very high f-stop, everything's good and sharp. Look at this one. As you go down, not only do the handles disappear, they literally disappear. It's because of a low f-stop. Tiffany's in focus. Miss Brown's in focus. But everything else starts to fade and mix together because of a lower f-stop. We even use this with our dances. I want them to use a mid-range f-stop when they're out on the dance floor. That way we can cover whoever's dancing. We make sure we have enough light on them. But I want to look at least a little bit of the background. Why? Why would I want the background in?
Decorations.
Yeah.
Tell a story.
I want to see the decorations. I want to know where we are. I want to be able to look at this picture and immediately know this was Homecoming 21.
Yeah, otherwise it just looks like every dance looks the same.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's learning to tell a story through your photographs. And sometimes it can be a simple story, sometimes it can be a complicated story. But I want you to learn how to do that today. Okay? Second thing that you can use is your shutter speed. Your shutter speed has to do with how fast or how slow your camera is opening and closing. It's quite literally how long your sensor is in view for light. If you ever fire your camera open, you'll notice that the shutter actually comes up and then goes down, or the mirror actually goes up and goes down. Mirrorless don't have that. It just opens, and then your sensor is exposed, and then it comes back and closes again. So the faster the shutter speed, the smaller the number, the more you can freeze.
Which is better, the mirror or mirrorless?
Depends on what you're shooting. We'll get into that. For you guys, this is where you get to decide what your image looks like. Not just your depth of field, but what you actually want your image to look like. Do I want flowing, running water at 1 second? I can let all of that water move. But at 1/800th of a second, I can get individual droplets of water. What do you want it to look like? You get to choose. What do I want it to look like? This is the ceiling fan in my bedroom. At 1/1/4 of a second, what do the blades look like on my ceiling fan?
Almost not there.
They're gone, right? I can literally shoot through the blades of my ceiling fan at 1/1/4 of a second. But at 1/1000th of a second, it looks like the blades are off. The ornate detail is there. The question is, what do you want it to look like? What kind of image do you want to capture? Do I want frozen action? Do I want to show a lot of movement? Or do I just want to show a little bit of movement? And it really depends on your publication. It depends on your advisor. It depends on you and what you want to show. When my daughter was really little, she loved for me to shoot pinwheels. At 1 second or 1/4 of a second, I can blur all the colors of a pinwheel together. And at 1/160th of a second, I can freeze a pinwheel. Now, why can I freeze a pinwheel at 1/160th of a second, but I have to be at 1/1000th of a second to freeze my ceiling fan? Speed. Ceiling fans are designed to do what?
Go fast.
To put off wind. Why? That's all they do. They blow. They blow off wind to cool you down. To where this receives wind. It'll take the wind from a ceiling fan and move, right? But they move slower. The reason I add this in is because we cover a lot of sports at the highest level. Today you guys are probably going to see NBA, you're going to see Major League Baseball, you're going to see hockey, you're going to see a little everything. let's take basketball for a second, okay? Who is the fastest moving basketball players on the planet right now?
That's a Miles question.
No, you guys know. Think about it logically. Who's the fastest moving basketball players on the planet?
The ball.
The NBA, right?
I
They're
was
the
like,
players in the NBA.
NBA.
I try to keep this simple. NBA players are the fastest moving basketball players on the planet. How do I know that? Because they get paid millions of dollars to play the game, right? Then who?
Football.
Now, then you have your college basketball players.
Oh.
Then you have your high school basketball players that we all cover, right? You have your varsity team, and then your JV team, and then maybe your freshman team, or maybe your junior high, and then your elementary, right? They all play basketball. They all have a thing that they do this with it. They all shoot at a cast iron hoop. Most of them are at 10 feet tall. The game doesn't change much from elementary to the NBA, right? You dribble on a court, you shoot toward a hoop. The difference is the speed and the age of the players. We can shoot the NBA, we have to shoot the NBA faster than we do varsity basketball. Why? Because they move faster. We have to shoot varsity basketball faster than we shoot elementary basketball. Why? Because they move faster. The elementary kids don't pass the ball, they don't shoot as fast, so I can use a slower shutter speed and still freeze them. The faster the player, the faster my shutter speed has to be. Now, this is Geraldine. Geraldine's probably the best volleyball player that we've had at Richland since I've been there. Okay? Let's break this image down. Is it a low f-stop or a high f-stop?
Lower.
How do you know?
She's in focus. Background isn't.
The balls.
Okay? Her nose is in focus. Face is in focus, right? Face is self. Notice her left hand, though. Left hand's a little soft, isn't it? Look at the background. It's completely gone. So my depth of field is probably 2 feet. When Parker took this, it's probably more like 18 inches. Very low f-stop, compressed. Fast shutter speed, slow shutter speed.
Fast.
How do you know? Okay.
Stop
What's she
motion.
doing?
Falling.
She's diving for what?
Ball.
She's trying to pancake a ball, right? She wants to pick up a dig. There was a 6'4" redheaded girl that jumped up over the net and pounded this ball toward the ground. And Geraldine's trying to get her hand under it so the ball didn't hit the ground. It's a fast shutter speed. So we have a fast shutter speed, low f-stop image, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is Clayton. Clayton played baseball for me for 4 years. Tell me about this image. Is it a high f-stop or a low f-stop?
It's high, like a mid range, like
Medium.
yeah.
It's a low f-stop.
Low. I was gonna say.
Look at the dirt. Dirt in the foreground's out of focus. Dirt behind him was out of focus. Grass is way out of focus, and the chain link fence is almost gone. Third baseman's arm's out of focus too, right? So that's a compressed depth of field right on him. Is it a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed?
Fast.
How do you know?
The ball's like literally frozen.
Ball's completely frozen. What about the runner? Is he flying? Or is he like in mid-stride? Mid-stride, right? Fast shutter speed, low f-stop. For both images. Fast shutter speed, low f-stop. Fast shutter speed, low f-stop. Now, other than the sport, what's the difference? What changed between these two images? Other than the actual sport they're playing.
I mean, your lighting is different.
How's the lighting different?
Natural lighting versus.
We're in the gym,
Gym,
right?
yeah, hold on.
These are under the old gym lights.
So the
Where-
lighting is terrible.
When you walk in the gym and you turn the lights on and the lights hum. Do you guys understand what I mean?
Yes.
Like a honeycomb. Yep, that was it. Our settings in that gym under those old lights, 1/800th of a second for your shutter speed. F32 was our f-stop. Okay? That was the settings in the old gym. Now, when we go out to shoot baseball, what do we have?
The sun.
Yeah, it's trying to kill us this summer, right? Exactly. We have that nice bright sunlight. We still shoot at f32 or f2.8. Why? Because we want to soak in as much light as we can. But we've got to shoot a lot faster of a shutter speed. This ball is moving a whole lot faster than that ball. So we've got to be at a faster shutter speed to freeze this ball. So instead of being at 1/800th of a second, which is where Parker is here, Dacey's at 1/8000th of a second to freeze that ball. But they're still both frozen, right? Both images, the action's coming at you. Now here the ball's going away, but Clayton is looking at you. You have his face. The ball's not going to buy a yearbook, but Clayton's mama will. We want to see his face, right? Faces sell. So remember, both of these are a fast shutter speed, low f-stop. Of these two images, which one has the faster shutter speed?
Right.
This one.
That way? How do you know?
Some of like droplets on.
Yeah. Individual droplets on that side versus movement of the water on this side, right? This is Cassidy. Cassidy wanted to help me explain shutter speed, and I said, fine, we're going to do it with food. She said, no, I want to use the baseballs like everybody else. Fine, we'll use the baseballs. We're going to use food, okay? What's your name?
Sean.
Sean, it's just me and you, bub. We're going to move everybody else. Don't stay where you at. We're going to move everybody else out of the room, okay?
All right.
Just me and you. You're going to be a senior, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. You guys have Pizza Hut up here, right?
Yeah.
You like pizza?
Yeah.
You ever get hungry?
Yeah.
Me too. Medium pepperoni?
Sure.
Awesome. Medium pepperoni, thin crust. And you really hungry. I mean, you hangry hungry.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to eat the whole pizza? Now, they're gone. It's just me and you. Medium, thin crust.
Medium thin crust.
Yeah, come on.
Probably could put it away in 30.
Oh, come on. Dude, I lost 200 pounds in the last 2 years. I can still eat it in 15. You're a high school kid. You can do it in 10. I've seen you guys do that.
You're probably not wrong.
Okay, then we're going to go with 10 minutes. You just don't want to say it because, you know, girls in the room.
Yeah, way to call me out like that.
I can't pick on one of them, then it really is bad. If I just give you a slice, how long does it take you?
30 seconds.
Okay, I don't want you to choke, so say a minute. How's that? Does that work?
Well, no, that's too slow.
If I give you a pepperoni, how long?
5.
Second?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just swallow whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the way it works. Let's use those. Let's use the 30 minutes. The 10 minutes. Let's use the 10 minutes, the 1 minute, and the second. Okay. We understand how to eat pizza, right? Everybody in the room understands how to eat pizza. We're going to coordinate that to photography. Instead of that 10 minutes that it took you to eat the entire pizza, that's 1/10 of a second. The one slice that it took you 1 minute, we're going to make that 1/100th of a second. There's your 1/100th of a second. And that pepperoni, that 1 second, we're going to make it 1/1000th of a second. And that's the closest one to me. Question is, what do you want your image to look like? What image do you want to create? What are you trying to create behind your camera? Most of the time, we want that frozen action, right? I tend to shoot a faster shutter speed than I need, just so I make sure that action's frozen. That's the way it works. Now, you guys tell me on this one. Is it a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed?
Fast.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the things. They're like blurred as the sparks come in.
If it were a fast shutter speed, you would just get the spark. With a slow shutter speed, you get the spark and the trail behind it.
That makes sense.
So learning how to break down images when you see them. Okay? Image on that side is not the greatest soccer photo of all time. Matter of fact, it's one of the worst.
That's the way a lot of my basketball pictures look.
Let's see if we can fix those.
Okay.
First, we always start with our f-stop. We always go to our shutter speed second. So let's start with the f-stop. Where's the f-stop on that image? Is it high or is it low?
Is his nose in focus?
Yep.
Is he
Yep,
so
he's in
very,
focus.
very low?
Mm.
You can see the cars.
Probably not very much.
What'd you say?
You can see the cars.
What do you mean you can see the cars?
They might disappear.
You could make the cars out, right? You can see the rearview mirror on the car. You can see where the windows are. Yeah, we need to compress this depth of field. When we compress this depth of field, what does that mean for us? We shoot at a what?
Lower.
A lower f-stop. We're going to drop that f-stop down.
So is that a medium f-stop?
It's probably a high.
A high? Okay.
If we drop that f-stop down to as low as we can shoot, what happens? You guys saw it earlier with the lenses. Whenever you shoot a lower f-stop, what happens to the hole?
bigger.
It gets bigger. What happens when it gets bigger?
It allows more light.
You allow in more light. When you allow in more light, what can you do then?
Focus on.
You can shoot a faster shutter speed. The more light you allow into your camera, the faster a shutter speed you can shoot. When you can shoot a faster shutter speed, what happens?
You can
Freeze
freeze
your-
You can freeze your action better, right? Not the greatest soccer photo of all time, but at least it's frozen. And you know who the subject is, because that depth of field puts him in focus.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
The first photo over there that's blurry.
Mhm.
The reason we were saying a high f-stop is because everything's not in focus.
Right.
But is that because of the shutter
It's
speed?
because of the shutter speed.
Okay.
The shutter speed allowed movement in it. So look at his legs. I hope his leg doesn't actually look like that. I hope it's, normal leg. Not frozen, right? Allow in more light and you can freeze your image. That helps a lot. What are we shooting here? What is this?
Rodeo action.
Rodeo. What kind of rodeo? Do I have anybody in the room that's a rodeo fan by chance? Oh,
I am.
Say
Okay.
it's bronze.
if I wear the PBR cap tomorrow, will it insult all of you? Because that's what I got set for tomorrow, is to wear the PBR cap. I shoot for them during the summer too, and some in the winter, because they come to St. Louis at least once a year. So me and my students shoot the PBR there in St. Louis. This is bronc riding, or bareback riding, whichever one you want to call it. Did you guys know that horses can fly? Tell me I'm wrong. Yeah. Also, when a cowboy spurs or his boots are up over his head, he's not going to have a good day. Why? Because what's about to happen to him?
Not to fall off.
He about to be bucked off,
Going
right?
down.
He didn't make it to 8 seconds on this ride. The reason I include this though is because this was taken at 1/8,000th of a second. It is the fastest shutter speed that Canon allows. Some of your cameras won't even go to 1/8,000. Some of you can only do 1/4,000. But this is the fastest shutter speed that Canon will shoot. And I want you to look at something. Look at his jeans. What can you see in his jeans? You can see the threads in his jeans. Even at a fast shutter speed, you can still capture wonderful detail. It's just learning how to do it. Okay? Now, when I tell you I want you to learn how to tell stories, I want you to learn how to tell the story behind your image. There is only one daytime rodeo in the state of Missouri where collegiate athletes participate. One. One day. Do you know where it is? Yep. This is the Sykeston J.C. Boot Hill Rodeo Grounds. This is the Three Rivers Community College Invitational Rodeo. And this is the short bow. This is championship day. They do it on a Sunday afternoon. It's the only one in the state. So now you know exactly where you are, right? If you know anybody from, I think this was Mount Vernon College, then you're going to know who he is. I don't know. I have to look at the cut line to figure it out. But I've got his face, right? When Devin shot it, he shot it in a way that he could get his face. So obviously we're going to be able to identify this kid. It's learning to tell stories with your photograph. Is it a high f-stop or low f-stop?
I'm debating.
Okay. Well, use your context clues.
I think it's a medium.
Well, the whole
back
is
is
not
not
the
in
whole
focus,
media,
but-
the whole, but
Look-
not,
look-
He
not
seems
extremely
in
out of
front, like,
focus
the whole-
though.
Look at the
Back.
dirt. Pay attention to whatever's around your subject that's in focus. Where does it start getting out of focus?
Just behind the horse.
Almost immediately, right? It's a lower f-stop. It's probably an f4, to be perfectly honest. Devin probably shot this with our 304. So it starts getting out of focus just behind the horse. The reason he would do 4 instead of 3.2 or 2.8 is because what is he shooting?
A large angle.
Yeah, so you want a little more depth of field to keep all of it in focus. And he just wants enough in that background to show all of that white gating so you can tell where you are. Okay? Fast shutter speed, slow shutter speed.
Pass.
How do you know?
Little
Dirt
specks of dirt
particles.
are frozen on there, yeah.
Because the horse is flying. Okay. How about this one? Start with your f-stop. Is it a high f-stop or a low f-stop?
Bye.
High.
How do you know?
You can
Everything's
see
in
all the
focus.
way down the street.
Everything's in focus. From the clock tower to the bridge, it's about 1.5 miles. Everything's in focus. Is it a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed?
So,
How do you know?
because the tail lights are tails.
When she shot this, I think she shot it at 4.5 seconds. So, press the remote, camera opens, 1, 2, 3, 4 point, and it closed. Shot it on a tripod in the middle of traffic. Oh, and by the way, it's pouring down rain. But you can't tell. Why not? Why can't you tell it's raining?
Because it wouldn't be frozen by the shutter speed.
The individual droplets aren't frozen. But also, it doesn't rain the way you think it rains. When we think about water flowing, what do we think about? Think about me taking this bottle and turning it upside down and letting the water run out of it. It's a stream of water, right? But how does it rain? Does it
Just
drop
every-
here, or drop here, or
No.
drop here, or drop?
It's not all right in front.
No. And if I'm shooting a slow shutter speed, if I'm leaving my camera open for 4 seconds or 4.5 seconds, there's going to be a whole bunch of little droplets that come through, but I'm still going to be able to see space more than I am droplets.
So that doesn't make your photo blurry?
Well, as long as you're on a tripod and your camera's not moving. Now, the cars obviously are.
Yeah.
That's the lights of the cars moving around. Guys, she was 8 when she took this. She sold it to the city of Cape Girardeau. It hangs in the courthouse now. First photo she ever sold. Yeah. ISO. Your ISO has to do with how sensitive your camera is to light. Somewhere in this room, down there, are my sunglasses. I have bright blue eyes. I know they're pretty. If I go outside right now, what happens? Yeah, I'll have to like close my eyes and feel around. And okay, give me a few minutes, I might be able to see again. Right? My eyes are adjusted to in here. Any of you guys ever shoot film, or have you guys always been digital? Anybody like me that's old, shot film, rolled your own film, all that crap? Yeah, okay. The way that digital cameras are set up now, they're set up on a 100, 200, 800 chassis. It's set up the same way film used to be. Film used to come in an ISO of 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, and then even higher if you want to go. The thing for you guys to know is that most cameras are built on either a 100 or a 200 chassis body. That means at 100 or 200, your images are going to be completely clean. There will be no grain. There will be no noise. They're going to be beautiful. However, every time that number doubles, the sensitivity doubles. So from 100 to 200, it doubles that sensitivity. From 200 to 400, it doubles that sensitivity. From 4 to 8, it doubles it. And even higher. Every camera is different when it comes to the sensor. Okay? I can line up 5 80Ds right here in front of us, and every one of them, the sensitivity would be different because of the sensor. You need to shoot your camera enough to know where you're going to start incurring grain. Some cameras incur grain at 1000. Some incur grain at 1600. Some you can shoot at 25,000 ISO and you don't incur grain. It really depends on the camera body that you have. Okay? If you guys have ever studied cameras, if you've ever looked at buying a new camera, some cameras are $600. Some cameras are $6,000. One of the main reasons of the price hike is the sensitivity of that sensor, along with how many frames a second it fires and everything else. But a $6,000 body, you can shoot at 25,000 ISO or higher, and you're not going to get a lot of grain. But if you shoot a $600 camera at that ISO, it might just be all grain. What do I mean by grain? This is the difference in grain. At 200 ISO, the doll's skin is nice and clean, her hair is nice and fine, the background light looks good. At 3200 ISO, her skin almost looks like sandpaper. Hair's coarse, bokeh lights are even nasty in the background, right?
Then why is 3200 even an option? What?
Because sometimes you have to do that.
Okay.
Look at the two here. For me, this is old analog cable and nice, clean 4K resolution. My grandma used to have analog cable. She had the box that you'd have to like press the button across to change the channel. Yep, that was grandma's cable. That's that one. However, I had a lady about 5 years ago I was teaching this. She said, I can't see the difference in those two. I said, then sweetheart, we need to talk about your glasses. Because there's a major difference in them, right? At 100 ISO, your image is nice and clean. At 3200 ISO, on this particular camera, you're going to get noise. It's just how it is, okay? You need to be able to pay attention to it out in the field, too. You need to understand, when you're in the field, can I shoot this at ISO of 100 and it be nice and clean? Or do I need to go to ISO 12,800? So look, notice the fuel lodge here on the bike, nice and clean at 100. But down there it added blue, red, and green to try to get that photograph to have enough light to freeze it. The question or just stretching? Just stretching?
This we have
Yeah.
a lot of issues with too.
Okay. Well, when we work on shooting today and tomorrow, we're going to work on how to fix that. Okay? Let's break it down. Is it a high f-stop or a low f-stop?
It's a relatively high.
How do you know?
His reflection is still in focus.
Okay? So the hardwood as far out as you can see is still in focus. All the way back is still in focus. Is it a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed?
I'm gonna say slow.
Does it have to be a fast shutter speed?
No,
Why?
There's
it's
no-
not,
not
there's no
moving.
action.
Okay? This cat right here, one of the baddest dudes I've ever met. He is a professional bull rider now. And he was one of my students. He was also my catcher. But guys, right now, he's just chilling. Right? So I don't have to have a fast shutter speed. I can shoot a slower shutter speed. Where is my ISO? Or where is Rome's? Because Rome took it. Is it a high ISO or a low ISO?
No,
How do you know?
no film grain in it.
Good and clear, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got pimples, he's got scars, he's got that little shaggy beard going on. But there's no grain to the image, right? It's nice and clean. How about this one? What day is it?
Graduation.
Okay? This is during our senior benefit or senior slideshow, whatever, where they go through and they show a slideshow up on the big screen and they turn the lights off and the whole place is pitch black. The only lighting in this image is the light coming out of the video board. Daisy shot this at 25,600 ISO. And I guarantee you it is much cleaner than a lot of the stuff you guys shoot at 2,000 ISO.
Just real quick, how did you get the light on the last picture?
That one?
Yeah.
So we have what's called a Godox honeycomb light. What's your name? Caden?
Katie.
Katie, come here. Have a seat on the floor, please. So we put linen in the floor. We took a soft box kind of like that, except it's Godox. Put it on a boom and boomed it over linen, and then out in front just a little bit, because notice that his shadow falls behind him and just to that side of him. So it's learning how to put that light exactly where you want the image. The photographer is down here. Thank you, Kate. Love the poops, by the way. Didn't know that was an option. I wore mine. Not that one, linen. Let's go back to depth. There we go. 25,600 because of how dark it is in that room. What else do you notice in this photograph?
So then why isn't it green?
Because of the camera that we shot it with.
Okay.
It's one of those $6,000 cameras. She also knew they were going to do that.
So she didn't use a flash or anything.
Just a video board light. It would be like going in your gym right now, having it pitch black outside or fairly well pitch black outside, and just turning on the TV. She used that light to capture the image. It really does depend on your camera body at that point and the knowledge of the photographer. This is how we control those three things. The first one is manual, meaning that we set all three of them ourselves. Okay? You guys remember the photo of Geraldine, the volleyball player that was diving for the ball? Guarantee you Parker takes that in manual. 1/800th of a second, f3.2 at 3200 ISO, because that was our settings for the gym under the old lights in the gym. We shot under those settings for 6 years. When you went in the gym, that was your settings. We knew that going in, because the light never changes, right? Turn the lights on, they run just the same as always.
And that depends on your lens also?
Mm-hmm. So it's on your lens, your body, and the lights in your gym. AV. AV has to do with controlling your f-stop and your ISO, and you're allowing your shutter speed to set itself. Okay? You guys remember the photo of Clayton, the baseball player, that was reaching out for the ball? Okay, guarantee you Daisy shoots that in AV. The reason I say that is because it's a bright sunlight, right? Even the runner had the shadow under him. What happens if that sun goes behind a cloud? Well, if you're in manual, you have to change your settings, right? Or else it gets dark. In AV, it will set it for you. You don't have to worry about changing your settings. So I guarantee you she shoots that in AV. It's at f3.2, ISO of probably 1,000, and then she lets her shutter speed set itself. 1/8,000th of a second, 1/6400th of a second. Shouldn't care, as long as it's fast enough to freeze that baseball.
How does the camera know that?
How
But
does
there's movement in that.
it doesn't. The photographer does.
Yeah, but if you're not setting your shutter speed.
It will meter to it. The camera has a meter inside of it, and it can
Okay.
meter it for you.
Okay.
And then the third one is TV or S. You guys remember the photos that I showed you of the brook and the water flowing? Okay, at 1 second or at 1/800th of a second. I don't care if the leaves behind them are moving or not. I just want them to focus. So I'm not going to worry about setting my f-stop because I'm going to be at f10, f16, f22, f32, whatever. It's going to be high enough that everything's going to be in focus. I'm worried about stopping that water moving or freezing that water moving. That's my choice. I told you you'd know by 10 o'clock, right? Time's
10 o'clock.
there you go.
Perfect.
Any questions on what we just hit? You're good with it so far?
I actually feel like I understand, so yeah.
You ready for me to put some more in your head?
Yeah.
Cool, good. Next thing for us. Who have I not picked on today? What's your name?
Briley.
Briley. Guys, I promise I love you all, but I'm horrible with names. And I'm going to a new school where I have 275 new students, and I'm not going to know all but like 2 of them. I will learn, I promise. Briley, what did I just do?
Gave me a smart.
I did what?
Gave me a smart.
No, what did I do with it?
You threw it at me.
Okay, so if I ask you what your throw is, do you know what throw is? No? I've said for years that I could teach anybody photography just using a baseball. Okay? She'll know. What did I do though?
You threw it at me.
Okay, and once you retrieve it from the floor, what are you going to do? You're going to throw it back. Now, what did we just do? We threw it, right?
Right.
There is a photography term called your throw. Your throw is your distance to your subject. You and I are what? 8 feet apart? 10 feet apart maybe? 6 feet apart? Whatever. What is your throw to your subject? You need to know that going in because that's going to determine what lens you're going to take. We were talking about it this morning with baseball. If I'm just covering the pitcher and the batter, I can use one lens. But if I need to cover the center fielder, I need to use an entirely different lens, right? Now, I want you guys to understand how I learned what throw was. I have covered 6 sitting presidents in my life. I've walked students into 4. Let me say that again. I've walked students into 4 presidents. Every time you work with Secret Service, you learn what your throw is. Throw means how far are you from the president. Sometimes it's 100 feet. Sometimes it's 60 feet. Sometimes it's 3 feet, meaning I can reach out and touch the man. You need to know that. Because once you work with Secret Service, once you get in and checked in and in the room, you can't go back. For those of you who are a high school photographer, you can, if you go to a basketball game and go, you know what, I don't like this lens, I can run back down to Miss Rucker's room and get a different lens. It don't work that way with Secret Service. Once you're in, you have to stay until he does his thing and he leaves. So you need to know what you need to take with you before you get there, okay? If you're assigned to shoot basketball, if you're assigned to shoot football, if you're assigned to shoot them splitting owl pellets in 5th grade, you need to know what is your throw from your subject before you get there. Do I need my short lens? Do I need a medium range lens? Or do I need a long lens? Okay? So we need to know what is our throw. How far are you from your subject? Now, it's been 6 years now? 6 years. 6 years ago, I was in the middle of teaching Intro to Business. Any of you guys ever taken that wonderful class? It's for freshmen only. And I get a phone call from the office. Hey, Carter, we need you to come down and take a phone call. All right. Why can't I just take it here? Because it's Secret Service, and our principal would really like for you to take it in her office. Okay. So I go down to her office. We have it on speaker. It's Mike. Hey, Carter, what are you doing? I'm doing good. We need... the president's coming. He's coming to your house. And you're going to need 5 of your students. I'm normal. I'm having a regular conversation with a friend of mine who works in D.C. My principal is sitting to my left, and she is freaking out. What? She goes, did he just say he's coming to your house? Yeah, he's coming to my house. I'll explain in a minute. All right, Mike, do we have positions yet? No, I need you to build positions. Okay, not a problem. What's my date? What's my time? Give me all my details. Write all my details down. Hang up the phone. And she goes, you have got to be kidding me. No. It happened before. She goes, how can you stay that calm? I said, well, I got to pick 5 students now. Think about going back to your yearbook staff or going back to your students and saying, hey, who wants to photograph the president? And he did. He came to my house. I was the house photographer for the Show Me Center at Southeast Missouri State University for a lot of years. And I used my students. We got the call that President Trump was coming to Cape Girardeau to speak at the Show Me Center. He's coming to my house. So I have to design how we're going to shoot this thing. So I go through and start talking with my students. We start planning like we do with everything that we do. Like I'm going to teach you guys to do later this afternoon. We start planning how we're going to cover stuff. Well, this place is going to be packed. If you've ever been to something that a president's at, normally it's packed. Bring a wide lens, show how many people are in the audience, right? You ain't gonna fit anybody else in there. Trust me, you can't. They tried. They turned like 10,000 people away. But that's not the shot that we want, right? I mean, that's the scene setter. But that's not the shot we want. We want to get a little closer. We want to see the man at the podium. We want to see the flag. We want to see the people around him. We want to tell that story. But we want to get closer. You want to get in nice and tight. You want to see people that have probably never seen a president before in their life. They're documenting that moment and he's speaking, but you want to get a little closer. That's 4 different lenses that one student had so that she could tell the story from her perspective. I had 4 others throughout the crowd that had different lenses with them so that they could tell the story from their perspective. It's learning to picture a photograph before you walk into the room. Not before you take it, before you walk into the room. Understand what you're looking for. Now that may change. I've gone to stuff before and not come back with anything like I thought it might be. But go in with a plan of what you're looking for. And then see what you can capture as it goes. Okay? As you guys may have figured out by now, I'm a baseball guy. That's how I think about life. Pitcher's mound to home plate is 60 feet 6 inches. Okay? I know that because I was a catcher all the way through college. That's how far I am from Cassidy here. I'm 60 feet 6 inches from her. So if I'm trying to think a good portrait of Cassidy at 60 feet 6 inches, is my 16 millimeter going to work? Why not? It'll take a nice pretty photo. What's wrong with it?
Your subject's way too far. Like you can't get close enough to her with your legs.
She's that tall,
Yeah.
right? And everything else is around her. Now, if I'm shooting the trees, sure. What would be the optimal lens to shoot from this distance?
Probably the 200 or the 100.
If I want to show her dress, the 200. If I just want her profile, the 3 or the 4, right? Is the 900 too close?
Depends on what you want.
Yeah.
Depends on what I wanted. Probably too close for a portrait, right? Understand your throw. Understand your distance. Now, all of you guys saw my classroom earlier, right? And I'm leaving. And when I say leaving, like I am stripping my classroom at the moment. I've got 4 days left for Richmond. But you guys saw what it looks like. All the pictures on the ceiling. There's almost 1,000 images on my ceiling now. How do you get an image on my ceiling? What does it have to include? Any ideas? I mean, it's got to be what?
Great.
Yeah, it does. We only do about 6 or 8 tiles a year. It's got to have 4 qualities to it. And they're the same 4 qualities that you're looking for. Okay? The first thing that we have to have is it has to be able to tell a story. Why? Because I don't like boring stuff. I'm not a boring kind of guy. Yeah, I've got on a gray t-shirt and khaki shorts and long socks. But you know what? I'm a pretty exciting kind of guy. I like movement. I like fear. I love bull riding. You name it, I've probably covered it. Okay? I want something that tells a story. Second thing is it has to have emotion. Why? Because if I send Katie to go take a photo of somebody and it comes back and they go, how exciting is that? No! You've at least been taught to do what when somebody pulls a camera up to you?
Smile.
At least smile, if nothing else, right? Third thing is I want something different. Let me see if this holds true for you guys. At some point through the school year, there are somewhere between 4 and 10 girls that will come to school. They'll have on dresses. They can be really frilly, they can be really pretty, they can be covered in sequins, they can be whatever. They get a sash, they walk into the gym or out on the ball field, and somebody comes over and says, and next is our sophomore candidate, and then tells everything that she's in and what she likes and how she likes to hang out with her friends, and you have one of those, right? And then at the end he says, and the blah 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 winner is, and gives a name. And then what do? She goes, and then goes over and gets a crown and gets flowers, and she might sit down or she may just stand there, and then one of your reporters interviews her, and she says, oh, I'm just so happy that I won. I can't believe everybody was so pretty. I never win anything like this. I was so wonderful. I'm just so happy to be here. I miss everybody. You ever heard that interview before? After 5 years, it gets really old. Yeah. So find a different way to do it. Tell the story from a different point of view. Maybe her mom won that at this school when she was in school here. Maybe her cousin. Maybe she watched her sister 3 or 4 years ago and now it's a lineage of the family. Maybe, maybe the dress she has on won last year as well. And the year before as well. And the year before. So for 4 years, the winner wore this same ugly green dress. So guess what we did the story about? It was about Ashley winning. Yes, we're glad Ashley won. But it's about the little green dress that Ashley had on and how Ashley plans on lighting it on fire and burning it. So whoever wins next year is not going to wear this same ugly green dress. Something different, right? Maybe it has to do with how you shoot it. Instead of shooting it straight on, maybe you shoot from an angle. Maybe you shoot from overhead. Maybe you shoot from the ground. Maybe you use studio lights. Maybe you use a flash. Whatever. But find a different way to tell that story. And the last thing that you have to look for is peak action. I love peak action, and it happens in everything. It happens in baseball, it happens in basketball, it happens in football, but it also happens in chess club. It also happens in quiz bowl. It happens in play team. It's learning to capture whatever the peak action is of that moment. Okay? Let's look at some photographs and see if you guys can tell what this looks like. Tells a story, emotion, something different in peak action. What's about to happen here? Can you tell?
You'll fall.
As long
Yeah.
as you get hurt.
Yeah. So we had the opportunity to cover the U.S. women's sled hockey team, and I'll tell you more about that later this afternoon. But I took 7 of my own students with me, all of which who had never gone ice skating before. And after about 15 minutes on the ice, they figured out they were professionals. And they were going to do the between the legs dancing with the stars thing. Right? How well did that work out? Well, remember me mentioning some pints of blood earlier? That skate went into the back of that thigh. 17 stitches down, and we all learned that day that blood bounces on ice. Yeah. We're a full contact sport when it comes to yearbook. Is there any emotion in this photograph at all? Fear. Is there something different in this photograph? Yeah, I got rolls on ice. Huh. You see any peak action here? Yeah. She asked me to take out the one of her bleeding and crying because apparently that upsets folks, but this one works the same. You can at least tell it, right? Where are we? What day is it? Yep. What's the theme?
Something to do with the moon?
Think it out.
Under the moon.
Stars.
What'd you say?
Under the stars.
Close. It's a starry night. What do you notice about this photograph that's different?
Angle.
The angle. What's different about the angle?
You're up
Not only
above.
is it more up above, but it's tilted.
They shot it up and down, right? And the lighting's coming from upstairs. What else is different about this photograph?
You want to see one face?
Why?
That's your focusing?
Okay.
I wanted to see her joy.
Okay, that's Robin. She was on my yearbook staff for 4 years. That might have been the first time I ever saw her smile. Why? She had kind of a crap life. I mean, her parents kind of abandoned her when she was 14. She moved in with a friend's mom just to be able to finish graduating high school. But where is she now? What night is this? Her senior prom. And who's she dancing with? Her brother. The boyfriend. Sorry. It's Richland. We ain't that bad yet. This is the boyfriend. Okay? Is she happy? Sure she is. In about an hour, she's going to be really happy. Because what happens in an hour?
She wins
Prom
queen.
Nope. He proposes.
I was gonna say, do you
Aw.
propose?
On the dance floor.
Oh, nice.
She said no. She said that she wanted to be the first one in her family to go to college. And then when she graduated, he could ask her again. So 4 years later, she's in the middle of her graduation ceremony. She walks across stage, comes off the stage, and he walks up. She's in full cap and gown still, going back to her seat, and he hits a knee. But he doesn't have a ring. He has a box. Inside the box is a key. He bought her first house because she'd never lived in a house. Through college, she still had not lived in a house. She said yes. They have kids. She's a teacher now. It's a fun story. But guys, it's learning how to tell their story, right? That's what we do. You guys have heard part of the story here. What do you notice about this photograph?
They're holding hands, he's crying.
Why are they holding hands?
Are they twins?
Best friends. Not boyfriend, girlfriend, just best friends. He's going to college in Boston. Prominent Ivy League school you might have heard of. She's going to SEMO. What day is it?
Graduation.
What happens that day? Everybody goes their own way, right? They've been together since kindergarten. They've been best friends since kindergarten. This is the last day. It's learning to tell those stories. That's why Daisy has to be able to capture this image the way she does. I send kids out to shoot on the playground. Go take pictures of the elementary kids on the playground. And usually they come back and the first photo they have is a wide shot of the playground. Like, yeah, I got this great shot, but nah, it sucks. Go do it again. After about 2 or 3 times, they figure out that I want faces. I want them to get up in the apparatus. I want them to get up in whatever Allie Corlew is climbing here and shoot back at her. Because any other frame, any other way of her is either going to give you a side profile or her butt. One of the two. Right? I want her face. I want her coming at me. It's learning to tell stories. The theme that year was breaking tradition. We put a brand new Rebel Man on the floor. Changed the gym floor for the first time in 21 years. You want to talk about breaking tradition? Yeah. It took Parker almost 50 hours to figure out how he wanted to hang this remote and where he wanted to fire it from. This is the very first varsity tip-off of the very first varsity game on the new floor. How long does tip-off last? That fast, right? But it took him almost 50 hours of pre-work to figure it out. Good photography takes time, guys. What day is it?
Graduation.
Where are you?
Outside.
Return high school.
Is it before or after graduation?
After.
Before.
How do you know?
This year.
There's no ugly crying yet, right? And their arms are making a nice little frame, both around them and around the school. It wasn't planned. I do the big portrait of the seniors every year, and then give them about 5 or 10 minutes just to play in their caps and gowns. And this year, these 3 wanted to take a portrait or get a photo of all of them together with their old iPhones. So I looked to capture some of it as well. Look at telling stories with your art. And then I want you to learn to do something that other people look at and go, okay, no, wait a minute. How'd they do that? Let's walk through this one. Where's the f-stop? Is it a high f-stop or a low f-stop? Can you tell? It's higher. This is my niece Alexis. She's in focus. The grass as far back as you can see is in focus, right? Is it a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed?
Slow.
How do you know it's slow?
This is the trail up.
Correct. Yep. You see the trail of the sparkler. Is it a high ISO or a low ISO? Is there any grain?
No.
No. It's a low ISO. So low ISO, slow shutter speed, high f-stop. This image should be pitch black. What's the difference? A flash.
I was gonna say, did you use a flash?
It's called the first curtain flash. When the camera opens, the flash hits. That's what freezes Alexis and her hands and the sparklers. But once the flash is gone, the shutter is still open to get the revolution of the sparklers. That's all it is, guys. It's a flash and a slow shutter speed. But it's learning how to use that to capture the image that you're looking for. The entire fight lasted 18 seconds. Like, they rang the bell, they walked out to the middle, they touched gloves, he tapped him once, and then he came in and dropped him. It's learning to shoot quickly, but you have to have everything ready to go before it happens. If you try to set your settings when these guys walk out into the ring, you're going to miss it. Being prepared will always be better than trying to do it in the moment. Understand what you're shooting and what you're looking for. Doesn't matter if I'm shooting boxing or I'm shooting a model in a dress. If I'm a third of a stop over, her dress is fried. If I'm a third of a stop under, you don't get the frills in her dress. And the train's moving about 35 miles an hour. So it's freezing that train as well. Okay? Guys, what I've taught you today, you guys can do it on any camera, right? I haven't taught you on Canon, I haven't taught you on Nikon, I haven't taught you on Sony. You should be able to pick up any camera and understand how the settings work. We were snowed in about 3 or 4 years ago when Alex took this. And he took it on his mom's little AE, the old school camera. It's like, hey, I still know how. It's just learning to look for things. Paying attention to the backgrounds of your photos to see if anybody's doing anything dumb. Neither one of them were on my staff very long after that was over. It's learning how to tell those stories. I don't know if you guys have dances here or not. I don't know if you cover them or what you look for. But it's looking to be able to create light, or at least give you enough light to freeze the action. Whether you're bouncing light off the ceiling or you're using studio lights to freeze the action, whatever it is, it's learning how to use those pieces of light to freeze that action. Because honestly, that's all photography is. It's light and color. That's it. She won Homecoming Queen between games and then wanted to shoot basketball. So she won Quill and Scroll's sports contest that night for a basketball photo that she took in a red cocktail dress with a black coat, her tiara, and her stilettos. Guys, if this gets in your blood, it stays there. You enjoy it. My very first week of teaching, like I taught on a Thursday and a Friday, and this next photo was on Saturday morning. They thought the fat guy died. I was dead right there in the middle of the street because I was shooting the band from a different way that they'd ever seen before. Then they saw my images, and the next week they were doing the same thing. Why? Because they liked the images. They liked the angle. We look for something different. You know where that is. Immediately puts you in that room, doesn't it? But if we don't have a photographer there, you don't get that art. How often do you get somebody on that stage? Every other year?
Yeah, not very, yeah.
Not very often. About like us.
Used to.
Probably every other year now. And if we don't have a photog ready to go and in place and their settings ready, by the time they call Kate Wyman's name, she's already passed, guys. It's about being prepared. It's about seeing something before it happens and being able to set your camera, be ready to go. She would walk by every day. Every day she would walk by and go, hey, have a good day. And we knew she was going to do it one more time. So you look for those little things that people do. And then it's promos. It's learning how to sell your book, how to show off your work. And then the last thing I have for you guys in this set is learning how to give back. You guys, you have a very small school. So do we. I don't know what your population or your free lunch percentage is, but I'm guessing it's probably about like ours. I teach for a bunch of poor kids, or I did. They don't have the opportunity to go and see Santa Claus and pay $30, $50, $70, $100 to get their photo taken to Santa. So every year we bring Santa to the elementary. And every kid that's there gets to sit in with Santa Claus. And if they want to have their brothers and sisters come in, they can. They want to have the whole family come in, they can. And they get a photo from family fun night of them and Santa Claus. And then we do a Veterans Day program. So every year we set up our portrait booth and we take photos of our veterans with their kids that are in school there. That way we can give back to our veterans as well. It's just a little way to give back. And then if you're ever looking for a way to make money for your staff, to fund different events or whatever, look for the kids that don't get covered. Everybody shoots varsity basketball, right? Very, very rarely do the junior high cheerleaders get to have a media day. They don't get portraits very often. Your band doesn't get portraits very often. So set up, do studio work, charge them 10 or 15 bucks for 2 8x10s, 2 5x7s, and some walls, and you can make a lot of money for your program.
And then you like send it off to your friend and
Yeah.
is that what you do?
Yep. Guys, there's my contact information. The email will change in 4 days, but I'll have the new email for you on one of the new slides here in a little bit. That is my Instagram and Twitter. If you guys ever need to get a hold of me, do that through Facebook, email, text. You have all my information, whatever I can help with. Any
What-
questions so far?
What are you doing next?
I'm moving to a different school. I'm going
Still in
from a
Missouri?
public school to a private school. It'll be very interesting to see how it works.
Still in Missouri?
Yes, still in Missouri. Actually, I got married in 24. Got married last year sometime. And moved. It was easier for me to move in with them than for them to move in with me. So I moved in with her and her 2 kids. And we're making it work. So, any questions so far? Anybody need to take a bathroom break? Yep. All right, let's take 5, and then you're going to need your cameras. So back